Evolution. Or, sorry, Elevation, I mean. I keep mixing that title up. Elevation. This is a new kind of creature feature apocalyptic scenario movie starring Anthony Mackie. This came out last week, so I'm about 2 weeks late to reviewing it at this point, probably, something like that. I didn't see this movie right away because, little pro tip about how I pick what movies I want to see and on what order I'm going to see them. I pick the movies that I know are not going to be there next week, put them on my list, and then I pick the movies I want to see most. So the movies I want to see most or have to review for you guys, they usually come first. For example, I really like if Deadpool Wolverine was coming out and there was some smaller movie coming out the same weekend, sorry, Deadpool and Wolverine's going to get precedence because my channel needs to hear my thoughts. You know, that's how it is when you make content. But then, you know, whatever smaller movie, I'd see that as well in the same week. I just make sure I do that just in case it is not available next week. So you know, this is one of those movies that I wasn't sure if it'd be there next week, but I wasn't sure if these other ones I wanted to see more would be there next week. So I made sure to rush out, see the important movies first, get those out, and then if this was still here, I'd go see it. And gratefully this film was. I didn't think this movie would be good going into it because if you're going into a movie like this, right? You don't really expect a movie like this to be anything amazing, right? Because this is Anthony Mackie, the guy who's going to be is in a Captain America 2 months, showing up in this movie that has no advertising. You've never heard of it. You don't know anything about it, right? I mean, even when I was explaining it to this lady, I asked what movies you got. I was saying, we got this movie. And she's like, oh, is that like an action movie or is that a horror movie? And I'm like, I think it's an action movie, you know. And then we read the description and it was an action movie. It was more of a creature feature. So, you know, that's the kind of thing where you just don't know what this film is, so you kind of just go into this with low expectations or no expectations, really. In some ways, that's the best way to enjoy a movie, because going into this movie with no expectations, I was like, oh, okay, this was a fine enough movie. Do I recommend you watch this? Not really, because it's pretty generic. You've seen this movie before. This movie kind of just throws you into this apocalyptic setting with no real world building or anything with it. So you have really no reason to really be engaged with it. It's just kind of there. It's got a lot of like the tropes of this kind of genre where, you know, there's creatures running around and they're trying to survive. And it's like, okay, Anthony Mackie's character is likable because it's Anthony Mackie. He's a likable actor, right? That's about it. There is no real, like, any substance that's really making you jump towards this movie. But you're also going to be entertained if you watched it. But there's better movies that would entertain you more, right? You know, someone said this saying out there, life is too short for mediocre movies. And that does sound really harsh, but I feel like there are a lot of mediocre movies that you can just skip because you can watch that but better. And that's what this movie is to me. I mean, if you really want to watch a movie like this, I don't know, Quiet Place Day 1 came out a couple months back. If you haven't seen that yet, go watch that, you know. Movie with better world building, interesting characters, you know, stuff like that. This just really isn't that. It's just kind of here. It's a fine movie. I enjoyed it well enough. Wasn't angry by it. But I also wasn't feeling anything from it, you know. I hope that, you know, maybe the creative team can move on to something, make something more interesting, maybe. I don't know. The other thing I will say is this movie clearly was cut down from a, like, really violent R-rated rating to just, like, only being rated up for language, I guess. Because the violence here very much feels like it was meant to be PG-13. Maybe they just didn't decide what they wanted to do, and they, you know, they let them keep the F-bombs because in the end they try to keep it R, but originally they were just going to go with PG-13, so you appeal to more people, maybe put some money into it, but then they decide, no real point. Which I kind of get, because I can't imagine this movie making more money if they'd advertised it more. It's just kind of, oh, okay, this movie, whatever. Evolution, God, what's the name of this movie? I can't even remember. See, I'm already forgetting. Let me know your thoughts, like, share, and subscribe.